The massive space station orbited Proxima Prime like a glittering jewel against the dark void. Nexus Command was the pride of the Galactic Council, a structure so vast that entire cities could fit within its rotating sections. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its ports daily, bringing delegates from every corner of known space. Today, the council chamber buzzed with tension. Representatives from 43 different species had gathered for an emergency session. The holographic displays showed star maps painted red with conflict zones. The war between the Apex Federation and the Dominion Empire had been raging for over 200 years, and it was getting worse. Counselor Vex stood at the central podium, his blue skin shimmering under the chamber lights. The Apex Federation's chief strategist was known throughout the galaxy for his brilliant military mind. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world, making them naturally strong. But it was their advanced technology that made them truly formidable. Fellow council members, Vex began, his voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. We face the greatest military crisis in galactic history. The Dominion forces have broken through our defensive lines in the Outer Rim. They now threaten 17 civilian worlds. A low murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Ambassador Krell of the Dominion Empire sat motionless in his delegations section. His species resembled large reptiles with thick armor-like skin and cold, calculating eyes. The Dominion had built their empire through conquest, believing that only the strong deserved to survive. The Apex Federation seeks council approval to establish staging areas in neutral territory, Vex continued. We need safe zones where our fleets can regroup and resupply. The chamber's main display activated, showing the three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas under Dominion control. Blue showed Apex territory, and small green dots indicated neutral systems. Vex pointed to several promising locations with his laser pointer. These systems offer strategic advantages, he explained. Good hyperspace routes, asteroid fields for mining, and primitive local populations that pose no threat to our operations. The pointer moved across the map, highlighting various star systems. When it reached a small yellow star on the outer edge of the spiral arm, the delegates began to laugh. The laughter started quietly but quickly spread throughout the chamber. The Sol system? Asked Counselor Brock, a member of the Trade Federation. You cannot be serious. Vex looked puzzled. The system has one habitable world in an ideal orbital position. It could serve our purposes. The laughter grew louder. Ambassador Krell finally spoke, his voice like grinding stone. That system is inhabited by primitives. They call themselves humans. They are barely more advanced than Stone Age savages. Dr. Nira, the Council's chief xenobiologist, activated her personal display. Images of Earth appeared on the main screen, showing cities, vehicles, and humans going about their daily lives. Her species had evolved from aquatic creatures, and she wore a special suit filled with breathing fluid. I have studied this species extensively, Dr. Nira said through her translator device. They are remarkably primitive, even by galactic standards. They have only existed as a technological civilization for a few thousand years. More images flashed across the screen. Human aircraft that used chemical combustion engines. Ships that burned fossil fuels. Weapons that relied on chemical explosives. And metal projectiles. The delegates' laughter became almost deafening. Look at their transportation, Dr. Nira continued. They still use wheels on most of their vehicles. Their fastest ships barely reach a fraction of light speed using chemical rockets. It takes them months to travel between the planets in their own system. Counselor Vex studied the data with growing disbelief. They have not achieved faster than light travel? Not even close, Dr. Nira replied. Their most advanced propulsion systems are primitive fusion drives that exist only as experimental prototypes. They are still burning chemical fuel to reach their own moon. The Dominion's military advisor, General Roth, stood up from his seat. He was a massive creature, nearly 3 meters tall, with multiple arms and natural armor plating. Their weapons are equally pathetic. They fight with metal projectiles fired by controlled explosions. Their most powerful weapons split atoms using uranium and plutonium. Nuclear fission? Asked Counselor Brock, astonished. We moved beyond that technology over 10,000 years ago. It gets worse, Dr. Nira said, bringing up more images. They are still confined to a single planet. They have small outposts on their moon, and a few primitive machines exploring their neighboring worlds, but they have never established permanent colonies beyond their home world. Ambassador Krell's cold eyes gleamed with amusement. A single planet species, how quaint. My people conquered 12 star systems before we even developed interstellar communication. The display showed human cities, dense with primitive buildings and crowded transportation networks. Their largest settlements housed millions of individuals, but they looked chaotic and unplanned compared to the elegant cities of galactic civilization. Their social structure is equally primitive, Dr. Nira continued. They are divided into hundreds of separate nations that frequently engage in warfare with each other. They have never achieved planetary unity. They fight among themselves? Vex asked, incredulous. While confined to a single world. Constantly, the doctor confirmed. Their history is one continuous cycle of conflict. They battle over resources, territory, religious beliefs, and political ideologies. Even now, they maintain massive military forces aimed at each other rather than exploring space. Counselor Brack shook his head in wonder. It is remarkable that such a species survived long enough to develop any technology at all. The images continued to cycle through human civilization. Their crude manufacturing facilities that produced simple electronics. Their power plants that burned coal and split atoms. Their primitive computers that use silicon chips instead of quantum processing. Everything about human technology seemed laughably backward. They do not even have proper energy shields, General Roth observed. Their military vehicles use metal. Armor for protection, metal. They might as well fight with stones and sticks. More laughter filled the chamber. The idea of using solid matter for defense seemed absurd to species that had developed energy barriers and force fields millions of years ago. Dr. Nira brought up the final set of images. Perhaps most telling of all, they have had the ability to split atoms for less than a century, yet they have already used these weapons against their own species. They created devices capable of destroying their cities, and then used them in warfare. A stunned silence fell over the chamber. Even among the most warlike species, using planet-destroying weapons against your own kind was considered the height of barbarism. They bombed themselves? Counselor Vex asked quietly. Twice, Dr. Nira confirmed. And they built thousands more. Such weapons, pointing them at each other for decades in something they called a Cold War. Ambassador Krell leaned back in his seat, his expression one of disgust. They are not just primitive, they are insane. The chamber erupted in agreement. Delegates from dozens of species voiced their shock and disbelief. How could any civilization be so backward? How could they have survived their own stupidity? Counselor. Vex looked at the star map again, the small yellow dot that marked the Sol system. Very well, we will look elsewhere for our staging areas. The humans are clearly too primitive to be of any concern to galactic affairs. The Council moved on to other business, dismissing Earth and its inhabitants as irrelevant to the Great War, raging across the stars. In their advanced wisdom, they had judged humanity and found it wanting. None of them noticed the small notation in Dr. Nira's files that she had not mentioned in her presentation. Her deep space monitoring stations had detected unusual quantum signatures coming from the Sol system over the past several months. The signatures suggested that someone was conducting advanced sensor sweeps of nearby space, but humans were too primitive for such technology. It had to be equipment malfunction or natural phenomena. After all, everyone knew that humans barely understood their own solar system, let alone the space beyond it. The warning alarms screamed through the underground facility buried deep beneath the Antarctic ice. Admiral James Harrison ran down the metal corridor, his boots echoing against the cold walls. The Deep Space Monitoring Station had been humanity's most classified project for over 30 years, hidden from the world under layers of ice and secrecy. "Report!" Harrison shouted as he burst into the main control room. Dr. Lisa Chun looked up from her station, her face pale with fear. Banks of primitive computers surrounded her, their screens showing data that should have been impossible. "Admiral, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace near Jupiter. The energy signatures are off the charts." Harrison stared at the main display screen. Dozens of red dots appeared around Jupiter's orbit, each one representing something massive. The computers struggled to process the incoming data, their simple circuits overwhelmed by readings they were never designed to handle. "How many ships?" Harrison asked. "We count 47 large vessels and over 200 smaller craft," Chun replied. "Sir, these ships are huge. Our largest aircraft carrier would look like a rowboat next to them." The Admiral felt his stomach drop. For months, they had been tracking strange energy patterns at the edge of the solar system. Most government officials had dismissed their reports as equipment failures or natural phenomena. Now those patterns had resolved into the worst nightmare humanity could imagine. "Are they hostile?" Harrison asked, though he already knew the answer. Before Chun could respond, every communication device in the facility activated at once. Radios, computers, phones, and even the emergency broadcast systems all began transmitting the same signal. The voice that emerged was electronically translated but clearly alien, primitive inhabitants of the third planet. "I am Fleet Commander Turan of the Apex Federation. Your world has been claimed as a military staging area. You will cease all resistance and submit to Federation authority immediately. Any attempt to interfere with our operations will result in the complete sterilization of your planet." The message repeated in dozens of languages, each translation cold and mechanical. Harrison looked around the control room at his small team of scientists and military personnel. These 23 people were the only humans who truly understood what was happening. "Get me a direct line to the Pentagon," Harrison ordered, "and patch me through to the President." Within minutes, secure communication lines were established. Harrison found himself on a conference call with President Maria Gonzalez, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and leaders from every major nation on Earth. The aliens had broadcast their message globally, and panic was already spreading through major cities. "Admiral Harrison," President Gonzalez said, her voice tense, "tell me you have good news." "Madam President, the situation is worse than we feared. Our long-range sensors show a massive fleet of alien warships. They appear to be damaged, possibly fleeing from something even more powerful. But their technology is far beyond anything we possess." General Murphy, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, interrupted. "What are our defensive options?" Harrison looked at the data streaming across his screens. The alien ships were massive, their energy outputs equivalent to small stars. Their weapons could probably vaporize entire cities in seconds. "Sir, we have no defensive options. These ships could destroy our entire civilization without breaking stride." President Gonzalez was quiet for a long moment. "What do they want from us?" "They want to use Earth as a base," Harrison replied. "They mentioned the staging area for military operations. It sounds like they're fighting a war somewhere else and need a safe place to regroup." British Prime Minister Williams joined the conversation. "Do we have any choice but to surrender?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Through the facility's speakers, the alien commander's message continued to repeat, each word a reminder of humanity's helplessness. Harrison watched, His team worked frantically at their stations, trying to gather more information about the alien fleet. "Admiral," Chun called out, "I'm detecting massive debris fields around the alien ships. These vessels have been in heavy combat recently. And sir, there's something else." Harrison moved to her station. "What is it?" Chun pointed to her screen, which showed spectral analysis data. "The debris isn't just from their ships. There are fragments of completely different technology mixed in. These aliens were fighting someone else, and they lost." The implications hit Harrison like a physical blow. If these aliens were refugees from a lost battle, what kind of enemy had defeated them? And would that enemy eventually come looking for them? "Dr. Chun," he said quietly, "how long before that debris reaches Earth's atmosphere?" She ran quick calculations on her computer. "Some of the smaller pieces will start entering our outer atmosphere within 6 hours. Most of it will burn up, but the larger fragments might survive re-entry." Harrison turned back to the communication system. "Madam President, I have a request. I need immediate authorization to collect and study any alien debris that falls to Earth. If we're going to survive this, we need to understand their technology." "Granted," President Gonzalez replied. "Take whatever resources you need. General Murphy will coordinate military support." Over the next several hours, the world watched in terror as alien ships moved through the solar system like predators claiming new territory. The vessels were beautiful in a terrifying way, their hulls gleaming with materials unknown to human science. They moved without visible engines, defying physics as humanity understood it. Television broadcasts showed panicked crowds in major cities. Religious leaders declared the end times had arrived. Stock markets crashed as investors fled to bunkers and rural areas. Military forces around the world mobilized, though everyone knew their weapons were useless against such advanced technology. The alien fleet established positions throughout the solar system. Some ships moved to asteroid belts, apparently beginning mining operations. Others took up positions near Earth's moon, their massive forms visible through telescopes as dark shapes against the lunar surface. Commander Turan's ship, the largest vessel in the fleet, positioned itself in Earth's orbit. The ship was over 10 kilometers long, its weapons arrays pointed downward toward the planet's surface. Message probes were launched toward Earth, each one containing detailed instructions for humanity's surrender. The instructions were simple, but humiliating. All military forces were to stand down immediately. No aircraft or spacecraft were permitted to launch without alien approval. All communication satellites were to be shut down except for those designated for alien use. Most importantly, humans were forbidden from approaching any alien installations or technology. In his underground facility, Harrison watched the alien ship's movements with growing concern. Dr. Chun had managed to track several pieces of debris that had fallen into Earth's atmosphere. Recovery teams were already moving to collect the fragments, but they had to work in secret to avoid alien detection. "Admiral," Chun said, studying her latest readings, "I'm detecting new energy signatures approaching the outer solar system, different from the current fleet." Harrison felt his blood turn cold. How different? Completely different technology. The power outputs are even higher than the current aliens. "Sir, I think someone else is coming." The Admiral stared at the data. On Chun's screen, the energy patterns were unlike anything they had seen before, massive and aggressive. Whatever was approaching the solar system was even more powerful than the fleet that had just claimed Earth. Fleet Commander Turan apparently detected the new arrivals as well. His ship's weapon systems activated, painting space with targeting beams. Emergency signals flashed between the alien vessels as they prepared for battle. Harrison realized with growing horror that Earth was about to become a battlefield between forces that could destroy planets. Humanity had not been conquered by the aliens. They had been trapped between two opposing armies, neither of which cared about human survival. The war that had raged across the galaxy for centuries was coming to Earth, and humanity was caught directly in the crossfire. The second alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a storm of destruction. War Marshal Corps' Dominion Armada consisted of over 300 warships, each one bristling with weapons designed to crack planets. Their dark hulls absorbed light, making them look like holes in space itself. Commander Turan watched from his bridge as the enemy fleet took battle positions around Earth's solar system. His damaged Apex Federation ships were outnumbered 3-1. The Dominion had found them at last, and this primitive system would become their grave unless he acted quickly. "Prepare all weapons," Turan ordered his crew. "Signal the fleet to engage defensive formation around the third planet." His tactical officer, a young Apex named Vel, looked confused. "Sir, why not withdraw to open space? Using the primitive world as a shield seems unnecessary." Turan studied the battle display. The Dominion ships were moving into attack positions, their massive forms casting shadows across Earth's surface. Because, young Vel, sometimes even primitives can serve a purpose. The Dominion will think twice before destroying a populated world. On Earth, the sky exploded into chaos. Beams of energy that could melt mountains streaked between the two fleets. Explosions brighter than the sun lit up the darkness of space. Debris from destroyed ships began falling toward the planet, like burning meteors out in the Antarctic facility. Admiral Harrison watched the battle with growing desperation. "How many ships have we lost sight of?" he asked Dr. Chun. 17 confirmed destroyed, but the electromagnetic interference is making it hard to track everything," she replied. "Sir, some of these weapons discharges are affecting our satellites. We're losing communication with half the world." The battle raged for hours above Earth's atmosphere. Both alien fleets seemed evenly matched in technology, but the Dominion had superior numbers. Commander Turan realized he needed to change the situation quickly or face complete destruction. "Launch ground forces to the planet's surface," Turan ordered. "Establish a defensive perimeter around the largest population centers. The Dominion will not risk destroying their own troops." His tactical officer protested. "Sir, the primitives might interfere with our operations." Turan laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "Primitives with chemical weapons and metal projectiles? They will flee in terror when they see our forces. Deploy 3 battalions to the largest landmass." The Apex landing ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. They landed in the Nevada desert, where the flat terrain offered good defensive positions. Turan expected the local humans to run away or hide in their primitive shelters. Major David Thompson received the alert at Nellis Air Force Base, just as the alien ships touched down 50 miles away. The veteran military officer had been tracking the space battle through military satellites, and he knew this was humanity's moment of truth. "All units, prepare for immediate deployment," Thompson ordered his combined task force. "We have alien ground forces in the Nevada desert." His second-in-command, Captain Roberts, checked his equipment list. "Sir, what good are rifles and tanks against aliens who can travel between stars?" Thompson loaded a modified assault rifle that Dr. Chun's team had delivered just hours earlier. The weapon looked like a standard military firearm, but its ammunition had been enhanced with power cells salvaged from alien debris. "We're about to find out, Captain." The task force moved out under cover of darkness. 300 soldiers and vehicles ranging from tanks to jeep convoys approached the alien landing zone. Intelligence reports suggested the aliens had established a perimeter using advanced technology, but Thompson had studied the debris analysis carefully. The alien ground troops were impressive to look at. They stood nearly 8 feet tall and powered, armor that shimmered with energy fields. Their weapons fired beams of concentrated plasma that could cut through steel like paper. Their leader, Battalion Commander Zek, felt confident that these primitives would pose no threat. "Perimeter established," Zek reported to the fleet above. No sign of primitive resistance. They appear to have fled the area as predicted. The first human attack came at dawn. Thompson's forces struck from multiple directions, using tactics that the Apex computers could not predict. The aliens expected organized warfare with clear battle lines and logical strategy. Instead, they faced guerrilla attacks from hidden positions. The first alien to die was a perimeter guard who thought he was invincible behind his energy shield. The human bullet, enhanced with alien power technology, punched through his defenses and dropped him instantly. The other guards stared, in shock at their fallen comrade. "Impossible," one alien soldier said. "Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields." More gunfire erupted from the rocky terrain around the landing zone. Human soldiers popped up from concealed positions, fired quick bursts, then disappeared again. The aliens tried to return fire with their plasma weapons, but their targets kept moving and changing positions. Battalion Commander Zek activated his communication system. "Fleet Command, we are under attack by primitive forces, requesting immediate orbital support." Commander Turan's voice crackled through the communicator. "Negative, Battalion Commander. We cannot risk revealing our position to Dominion targeting systems. Deal with the primitives using ground forces only." Zek felt his confidence beginning to crack. His advanced armor told him that the human weapons should be harmless, yet three more of his soldiers had already fallen to enemy fire. The aliens began to realize that these humans had somehow modified their primitive technology. Captain Roberts coordinated a flanking attack on the alien left wing. His squad moved through a dry riverbed, staying low to avoid detection. When they reached optimal range, they opened fire with everything they had. The aliens found themselves facing an enemy that fought unlike any civilized species. The humans took terrible casualties but kept fighting. They used their own vehicles as weapons, ramming them into alien positions. They threw explosive devices with suicidal determination. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to learn from each engagement, adapting their tactics faster than alien computers could calculate countermeasures. Marshal Kor observed the ground battle from his flagship high above Earth. His tactical computer was having difficulty analyzing the human fighting patterns. The algorithms kept generating error messages when trying to predict primitive behavior. "Their tactics make no logical sense," his chief strategist reported. "They sacrifice multiple units to achieve minor tactical advantages. They use their vehicles as projectile weapons. They attack positions they cannot possibly hold." Kor studied the battle data with growing interest. Yet they are achieving measurable results against Apex ground forces. "Yes, sir, but at a cost ratio of 6-1. No civilized military would accept such losses." The Dominion commander leaned back in his command chair. Perhaps these primitives were more interesting than anyone had realized. His own species had conquered their way across the galaxy, but they had forgotten what it meant to fight with pure desperation. On the ground, Major Thompson coordinated the next wave of attacks. His force had been cut in half, but the aliens had lost nearly 30% of their troops. More importantly, the humans were learning how alien technology worked. "Their shields have a refresh cycle," Thompson radioed to his remaining units. "Hit them with sustained fire and the barriers will overload." The battle continued through the day, with both sides taking heavy casualties. The aliens began to realize that these primitives possessed something that advanced galactic civilization had lost long ago: the willingness to die fighting rather than accept defeat. Battalion Commander Zek finally understood why his soldiers were falling to primitive weapons. The humans were not just fighting with modified technology, they were fighting with a ferocity that no computer could calculate or predict. The orbital battle above Earth intensified as both alien fleets suffered unexpected losses. Commander Turan stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His sophisticated Apex warships were being damaged by primitive human missiles, crude nuclear weapons that should have been completely ineffective against advanced alien shields. How are they penetrating our defenses? Turan demanded from his weapons officer. Officer Vell studied the sensor readings with confusion. Sir, their missiles are not penetrating our shields. They are overwhelming them through sheer numbers. The primitives are launching hundreds of nuclear weapons simultaneously. Below on Earth, Admiral Harrison coordinated humanity's desperate defense from his Antarctic command center. Every nuclear submarine, missile silo, and bomber had been activated. The planet's entire nuclear arsenal was being fired into space in massive waves. Launch sequence 7 complete, reported Dr. Chun. 430 missiles away. Estimated time to target, 18 minutes. Harrison watched the tactical display as humanity's most powerful weapons streaked toward the alien fleets. Each missile represented decades of human scientific achievement, and they were firing them all at once in a desperate gamble for survival. The aliens had made a critical error in their calculations. They had dismissed human nuclear weapons as primitive because they were based on atomic fission and fusion. But they had forgotten that sometimes primitive solutions could be devastatingly effective when used in sufficient quantities. Dr. Chun made her breakthrough while analyzing captured alien shield generators, working in a hastily constructed laboratory beneath the Pentagon. She discovered something that changed everything about humanity's understanding of advanced technology. The alien shields work by dispersing energy across a wide frequency spectrum, she explained to a room full of military officers. They can handle directed energy weapons and sophisticated projectiles because those attacks have predictable patterns. General Murphy leaned forward. What does that mean for us, Doctor? Chun activated a holographic display showing alien shield technology. It means their defenses are designed to counter intelligent weapons. They expect attacks that follow logical patterns and use advanced targeting systems. But our weapons are too primitive for their shields to properly counter. The revelation was stunning. The aliens had become so advanced that their defensive systems could not effectively deal with simple kinetic attacks. Their shields were like sophisticated locks that could stop master thieves, but failed against someone who simply kicked down the door. Colonel Lisa Park prepared for humanity's first space mission using alien technology. Her modified spacecraft looked like a mechanical nightmare, a fusion of human engineering and salvaged alien components. The ship should not have been able to fly, yet somehow the hybrid technology worked. Control, this is Eagle 1. Park radioed as her squadron launched from a secret facility in Montana. We are approaching the alien fleet. Her ships were crude compared to the sleek alien vessels, but they carried a secret weapon: unpredictability. The human pilots had been trained to fight in ways that violated every principle of civilized space warfare. The first human ship to engage an alien vessel used a tactic that no galactic military computer could have predicted. Instead of firing weapons at long range, the pilot flew directly at the enemy ship and rammed into its hull at maximum speed. The alien crew watched in horror as the primitive human craft smashed through their shields and buried itself in their ship's superstructure. The human pilot ejected at the last second, floating away in a primitive spacesuit while his ship's engines overloaded and destroyed the alien vessel from within. Impossible, whispered the alien tactical officer. They are using their ships as projectile weapons. More human spacecraft followed the same suicidal pattern. They flew at alien ships with reckless abandon, using ramming attacks and boarding actions that made no sense to advanced military minds. The humans seemed to have no regard for their own safety, treating their lives as expendable resources in the fight for survival. War Marshal Corps observed the human attacks from his flagship with growing fascination. His tactical computer kept generating error messages when trying to analyze human behavior patterns. Their combat algorithms are completely irrational, his chief strategist reported. They sacrifice valuable assets to achieve minimal tactical gains. No civilized military would operate this way. Core studied the data more carefully. Yet they are achieving results against Apex forces. Their kill ratio improves with each engagement. The Dominion commander began to realize something that his sophisticated military education had never taught him. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy was not the most advanced, but the most desperate. The humans fought with a kind of raw determination that his own people had forgotten over thousands of years of technological superiority. Colonel Park led the most audacious human attack of the battle. Her squadron approached a massive Apex battleship, using a formation that looked chaotic to alien sensors. The ships weaved and bobbed through space like drunken insects, making it impossible for alien targeting systems to lock onto them. All units, execute boarding protocol. Park ordered. The human ships suddenly accelerated toward the alien vessel, using magnetic grapples and cutting torches to breach the hull. Human soldiers in primitive spacesuits swarmed through the openings, carrying weapons that combined human and alien technology. The Apex crew found themselves fighting hand-to-hand combat in their own corridors. Their energy weapons were designed for long-range space battles, not close-quarters fighting. The humans used simple firearms, explosive charges, and even metal knives to devastating effect. "They are inside the ship," reported the Apex captain. In panic, "The primitives are fighting us with bladed weapons." Commander Turan could barely believe the reports coming from his fleet. Human boarding parties were capturing alien technology by force, using tactics that belonged in ancient history, rather than modern space warfare. His advanced civilization had no experience defending against such primitive aggression. Dr. Chun analyzed each human victory from her laboratory, learning more about alien technology with every captured system. She discovered that the galactic powers had become completely dependent on their advanced computers and automated systems. Their weapons, shields, and engines are all controlled by artificial intelligence, she explained to Admiral Harrison. The aliens themselves have forgotten how to fight without technological assistance. Harrison studied the data with growing understanding. "You mean they cannot adapt when their computers fail to predict enemy behavior?" "Exactly," Chun replied. "Our tactics are so primitive that their artificial intelligence cannot calculate proper responses. We are like a virus attacking an immune system that does not recognize the threat." The battle above Earth became a lesson in the dangers of over-reliance on technology. The alien fleets, for all their advanced weapons and sophisticated tactics, found themselves unable to counter an enemy that fought with pure desperation and tactical innovation. Human forces continued to achieve impossible victories through sheer unpredictability. They used tactics that ranged from brilliant to seemingly insane, but each attack taught them more about alien weaknesses. The primitive species that the galactic powers had dismissed as irrelevant was proving that advanced technology meant nothing. Without the will to use it effectively, both alien commanders began to realize that they had made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. These primitives possessed something that galactic civilization had lost: the ability to fight without rules, to adapt without computers, and to sacrifice everything for the chance of victory. The tide of battle turned when both alien fleets attempted to retreat from the Sol system. Admiral Harrison watched from his command center as the massive warships began powering up their hyperspace engines, preparing to abandon Earth after suffering devastating losses to primitive human forces. "They are trying to escape," Dr. Chun reported, studying the energy readings. "Both fleets are preparing for jump to hyperspace." Harrison made a decision that would echo across the galaxy for generations. He activated the emergency broadcast system, sending orders to every human ship still capable of fighting. His voice reached pilots in damaged spacecraft, submarine crews preparing nuclear launches, and ground forces scattered across the planet. All units, this is Admiral Harrison. The aliens are retreating. We pursue immediately. Do not let them escape to fight another day. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Human forces that should have been celebrating their survival instead prepared for the most audacious military action in their species' history. They would chase the alien fleets across interstellar space using captured technology and sheer determination. Captain Jake Wilson commanded the largest human pursuit fleet, a collection of captured alien vessels and modified human ships that defied every principle of military engineering. His flagship was a Dominion cruiser that had been taken by boarding action, its original crew replaced by humans who barely understood how to operate it. Engineering, report on our hyperspace capability, Wilson ordered. Chief Engineer Martinez, a former NASA technician, consulted readings from alien control panels he was still learning to read. Captain, we have enough power for one long-range jump. After that, we'll need to figure out their fuel systems. Wilson studied the tactical display showing both alien fleets limping away from Earth, Commander Turan's Apex forces and War, Marshal Corps' Dominion ships were both heavily damaged, their crews demoralized by defeats they could not understand. Set course for the Nexus station, Wilson ordered. Intelligence suggests both fleets will head there for repairs and reinforcements. The human pursuit began with a hyperspace jump. That should have been impossible for a species that had learned alien technology through combat salvage. The hybrid human fleet emerged from hyperspace in a loose formation that looked chaotic to trained military observers. Nexus station orbited a neutral star system, serving as a trading post and diplomatic center for dozens of galactic civilizations. The massive structure housed millions of beings from across known space, all believing themselves safe in neutral territory. Commander Turan arrived first, his battered Apex fleet docking at the station's military ports. He immediately sent emergency communications to Apex High Command, requesting reinforcements and reporting the impossible defeat his forces had suffered. High Command, this is Fleet Commander Turan. The primitive humans of the Sol system have proven far more dangerous than our intelligence suggested. They have captured multiple vessels and inflicted severe casualties on our forces. The response from Apex Command was dismissive. Commander, you are reporting defeat by a pre-spaceflight civilization. This is impossible. Provide detailed analysis. For review. War Marshal Corps arrived hours later, his Dominion fleet equally damaged and demoralized. Like Turan, he found his superiors unwilling to believe that primitive humans had achieved military victories against advanced galactic forces. The Nexus station's inhabitants watched both fleets dock with curiosity. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the station's observation decks, wondering what kind of enemy could have damaged two of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. What could have done this to them? Asked Ambassador Quinn of the Trade Federation, studying the battle damage on both fleets. Dr. Nira, the xenobiologist who had originally dismissed humanity, examined the sensor logs with growing disbelief. The energy signatures suggest they were fighting primitive nuclear weapons and kinetic projectiles, but that is impossible. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace like an avenging storm. Wilson's ships appeared in loose formation around Nexus Station, their mismatched hulls and improvised weapons sending shockwaves through the gathered alien representatives. Attention Nexus Station, Wilson broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Jake Wilson of the Human Defense Fleet. We claim jurisdiction over all Apex Federation and Dominion Empire vessels currently docked at this facility, the stations. Inhabitants stared in stunned silence as human ships moved into attack positions. These were the same primitives that the Galactic Council had dismissed as irrelevant, yet they now commanded captured alien technology and spoke with the authority of conquerors. Ambassador Krell of the Dominion Empire tried to respond with diplomatic immunity. This is neutral territory. You have no authority here. Wilson's reply was broadcast across all galactic communication networks, reaching every civilized world in known space. You called us primitive. You thought we were beneath notice. You were wrong. The battle at Nexus Station became legend throughout the galaxy. Human ships attacked with the same reckless determination they had shown at Earth, using captured alien weapons alongside primitive human tactics that alien computers could not predict or counter. Colonel Park led a boarding assault on Commander Terran's flagship while it was docked at the station. Her forces used explosive charges to breach the ship's hull, then fought through the corridors using combinations of human weapons and alien technology. Terran found himself trapped on his own bridge as human soldiers surrounded him. The proud Apex commander, who had once dismissed humanity as barely evolved primitives, now faced capture by the same species he had tried to conquer. How? Terran asked as human troops took control of his ship. How did primitives defeat Galactic? Military technology. Captain Roberts, leading the boarding party, looked at the alien commander with something approaching pity. Because you forgot how to fight. You let your machines do everything for you. We never had that luxury. War Marshal Kor watched the battle from his own ship, seeing his forces systematically destroyed by an enemy that should not have existed. The humans fought ship-to-ship combat with the same brutal efficiency they had shown in ground battles, using ramming attacks and boarding actions that no civilized military would consider. All units retreat immediately, Kor ordered his remaining ships. Do not engage the humans directly. But the human fleet pursued even the retreating Dominion vessels, hunting them through space with captured alien technology and unbreakable determination. Within hours, both alien fleets had been destroyed or captured, their survivors taken prisoner by the same primitives they had once scorned. The Nexus Station's inhabitants watched in silent awe as Admiral Harrison's image appeared on communication screens throughout the facility. The human commander stood on the bridge of Terran's captured flagship, surrounded by alien technology that his species had mastered through combat rather than study. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Harrison said, his words reaching every civilized world in known space. Humanity claims its place among the galactic powers not as supplicants, but as conquerors. We have proven that advanced technology means nothing without the will to use it. The Admiral paused, looking directly into the camera. Any species that threatens Earth or human interests will face the same fate as these fleets. We may be primitive by your standards, but we are primitives who know how to win. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council emergency session convened to address a new reality. The species they had dismissed as irrelevant had achieved the impossible, defeating two major galactic powers using nothing more than determination and tactical innovation. Earth's representative took his seat among the galactic powers, not as a petitioner seeking admission, but as the commander of forces that had proven themselves in battle. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, built on the foundation of a simple truth. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate.